So let's start with how the trip started. I went from London Gatwick Airport, which, as anybody who's ever been to London will tell you, is not in London. But yeah, we've got like 4 London airports. 5? I think Luton is as well. But yeah, anyway, at least 5, if not more, airports that are supposed to be London based. The I flew with British Airways. They've had a bit of a mixed year themselves in terms of things going wrong with them and whatnot. But it was one of the best prices I could find, and it was also at a time that worked well for me. The hardest part turned out to be saying goodbye to my daughter the night before I was travelling, because she was very upset that I was going. Not where I was going or why I was going, but just because I was going away. And that was she was really, really sad. And yeah, that hurt. That really hurt, seeing her that upset. But I'd paid for everything, so I had to go. Sorry, Alice. I got to the airport, went through security, and decided to try and find something for breakfast. Because I'm never sure with flights, especially flights that early, what you're going to get. You would expect to have like a lunch, and maybe something in the later in the afternoon. But I'm never quite sure. So I thought, well, if I just go and make sure I have some breakfast, then if I don't eat on the plane for a few hours, it's not too bad. So I ended up for breakfast going to Nando's, which is absurd, right? But all of these kind of like big, national chains seem to have a representation at a lot of airports, and they will do food for all hours because they're going to be open for all hours that people are travelling. So you wouldn't go to your local Nando's and get a breakfast, but you can at the airport. And I had a halloumi bun with some hash browns and some sweet chili jam, and it hit the spot. So fair play to Nando's. That wasn't too bad at all. I waited for my departure gate to be announced, and then once it was announced, I made my way down there. I knew it wasn't going to be like one of the first ones on the plane, but it's still better to just be there. You know where you are then, and you can kind of like get yourself like ready and prepared for the flight. We boarded on time, but there was some delays getting the luggage on, so we did end up leaving a little bit late. In the end, the flight itself was fine. By the way, if you don't know anything about me, I class myself as a vegetarian, but I eat a lot of vegan stuff. So for the meal, I pre-booked an Asian vegetarian meal. You can choose vegetarian as an option, but it can be very hit and miss. If you go for Asian vegetarian, you're normally going to get some kind of curry or something, which is normally a safe bet. And I'll be honest, I've done that probably about 5 or 6 times now, and always got a decent meal on the plane. Normally better than the meat or the regular option of the people that I'm travelling with. So that was a smart choice. The other problem I have with flights nowadays is that I watch a lot of films at the cinema, as you know from other stuff that I do on this YouTube channel. So when there's a selection of films, I pretty much watched all the ones that I wanted to watch already. So I took an old games console. I've got a PSP. Took that on the plane with a load of old games installed on it, and was going to play that for a little bit, and then was going to try and get some sleep because, I'm doing Halloween Horror Nights, and I had 3 nights that I was there to do Halloween Horror Nights. I had 3 nights there, full stop. So I thought, if I can get some rest on this flight, then at least it means that I can be prepared and ready to go for Halloween Horror Nights. It didn't work. I think I slept for about half an hour in total. I had an eye mask on. I had like my noise cancelling headphones on. I just could not make myself sleep. And there were people all around me sleeping. So it was really frustrating that I just could not manage to get to sleep. But the flight itself was fine. You know, very, very little turbulence. We were, as I said, slightly late. So I think we ended up landing around 4. So by the time I got through passport control, by the time I got my luggage the other end, I was lucky in that my luggage was some of the first to come up on the conveyor belt, the carousel. So that wasn't too bad. So I was able to get out there and jump in a car. I just left the airport upstairs and looked to see what the prices were like on Uber and Lyft, which are both companies that I've used previously. Lyft was coming in slightly cheaper, so I decided to get a Lyft at that time of day. And I've got to say this time of day because it varies, right? It varies. So at that time of day, it was about $29 for the trip to the Avanti Palms Resort, which is where I was staying up on iDrive. So that's fine. You know, you add your tip on as well. So I think it was about $36 in the end, something like that. And the journey took about 30 minutes, 35 minutes from the airport. So a little bit of traffic, but not too bad. Driver took me straight there. It was fine. There was quite a line for check-in. And when I say quite a line, there was about 6 people in front of me, but it was one of those slow-moving queues, you know. They had 2 people working the desk. It was slow. So it took about 25 minutes for me to be seen. And the thing that I never understand when that happens is as soon as I'm seen at reception, I'm checked in, I've got my card within about 5 minutes. And I'm like, what's taking everyone else so long? Because I can't hear the conversations that are happening. But I seem to go through the check-in process really quickly. What are other people doing that I'm not? The resort was about a 10-minute walk from the Endless Summer resorts that Universal have on iDrive. To give you an idea, there was a Walgreens just across the road from those as well. So once I actually got myself checked in, got my card, found my way to the tower that I was staying in, and dropped my luggage off, I immediately left and took a trip down to Walgreens just to get some stuff for the room. So I got myself some water, I got myself some snacks, and come back. Later on, I will show you what the room looked like, so you can see. But one of the things that was good about the room is that it had a coffee maker, which admittedly I didn't use because I didn't know how to use it, so I didn't try to. A microwave and a fridge. Really handy to have those in a room. So, as I said, I was able to kind of like get some water, get some energy drinks, just 'cause I like trying energy drinks, and some chocolate and snacks, put those in the fridge. Had an air conditioner in there, obviously. Fairly loud, but nothing, like it wasn't too distracting. You could hear it, you was aware it was on, but it wasn't too bad. And yeah, it was fine. It was a good location for where it was. So by this point, it's about 7 o'clock. Once I've got back to the room, it's about 7 o'clock. I've had a shower, changed into some new clothes, and I was like, right, how do I get to Universal? So I hadn't really thought about it. I knew the hotel was about 1.5 miles away. I knew the iTrolley didn't go there. And I wasn't yet sure about the Lynx buses and how they operated. So I thought, right, what do I do? So I thought, well, I know it's 1.5 miles. I know that, I'd looked at the map already about what the walk was like, so I had no idea. So I thought, well, it's still light. and it's my first time here. Let's walk it. So that's what I did. I decided just to walk it. It said it was going to take about 35 minutes, I think. But I'm quite a quick walker, so I did it in less time. I was at Universal by 8. And when I say I'm at Universal by 8, what I mean is I'm in the entrance to Universal trying to go through security at 8 o'clock. The walk itself was fine. There were clear sidewalks for you to walk the whole way, like there was pavement you could walk on. So, it felt quite safe. It's obviously on a busy road, so you've got to be mindful of that. You've got to, just pay attention to the traffic lights and everything. It will tell you when, you are able to cross safely. The weird thing in America is even when that's happening, if cars are turning and there's no one crossing, they will start to go. If you're on a crossing, they will still turn as if to go, but they will obviously let you walk first. It's a little bit weird, but you get used to it. So the journey was fine. You walk into where the buses drop you off at the bus depot. You go up the escalator, and then you're in like the entrance hub for Universal. For Halloween Horror Nights, because of how busy it is, you basically have to kind of walk out towards the car parks to then walk back in again to get into security. It's really weird. You just deposit your items into a box, go through security, and then you're fine. You're then allowed to carry on, walk into City Walk, and then walk through there to Halloween Horror Nights to start your evening. So it was the first night. I hadn't got my ticket sorted. I hadn't got my disability pass sorted either. I had my ticket for Halloween Horror Nights and that was it. So I knew I had to do both of those things first. So I went to guest services. I knew it's where I had to go in order to do this. Now, I'm going to give you some context as to why I had to do those things. Tickets. So I mentioned earlier that I had an annual pass that I'd bought in 2019. And the rules of the annual pass are your annual pass is activated the next time you swipe it or you tap it in to go into a park. So that's what I was told, and so I believe that to be true. So I contacted Universal a couple of weeks out. Well, no, not a couple of weeks out. The day I'd booked the flights, which was 10 days before I left. Contacted Universal via email, and then I saw that you could contact them on Messenger, Facebook Messenger. So I contacted them there as well. And I just said, here's my annual pass. Can you just confirm that it's still in date and I can activate it when I go to the parks next week? So I didn't get a response on email. I did get a response on Messenger about 3 or 4 hours later. They looked into my pass and they said, oh no, your pass actually expired in December 2020. And I said, how can that be? Because I didn't use my pass before I left Orlando last time. So how could it have expired if it hadn't been used? And there was obviously a miscommunication when I upgraded my pass. So I asked the guy specifically, does this activate the next time I use it? And he said yes. But because it was an upgrade from existing dated tickets that I had, that started the day of the annual pass as the day that I paid for the upgrade. So even though I didn't use the card, they started it without me knowing. Very annoying. So I was like, well, that's bad. That's bad news. It's not good news for me. I didn't want to buy a new annual pass because I wasn't sure when I might be back or anything like that. And UK tickets, if you buy a 14-day ticket, it's cheaper than normally buying just regular day tickets from Universal as well. So I was like, what do I do? And also, I'm a massive fan of Tron. The new Tron attractions just opened up at Magic Kingdom. Well, if I haven't got tickets to go to Universal, should I just go and do that instead one day? So Anyway, she came back to me and apologised and said, I'm really sorry, but when are you going? So I gave her my dates, and she said, I'm happy to give you a 3-day ticket, which would cover the Saturday, the Sunday, and the Monday that I'd be in Orlando. And I said, that's really kind, thank you. So she said, no problem, here's the case number, go to guest services, they will sort that out for you. And I said, brilliant, thank you. And, that I thought was, above and beyond, really appreciated that. However, about 5 days after that, I finally get an email back from Universal and their guest relations team, which is obviously maybe the same people, I don't know. Maybe it's different teams that operate different social networks and emails. But I got an email back from them, again, explaining what happened with the annual pass, and saying why it was expired. But because of what had happened and because of the miscommunication, they'd be willing to give me a brand new annual pass with the 15 months offer that they were doing at the moment. So I was like, well, that's even better. So instead of taking like the day ticket option, I instead took the annual pass option. So the annual pass is now valid until December of 2024, if I wanted to go back. So that was, that to me is really good customer service. It wasn't, I wasn't asking for it. I wasn't demanding anything. When I asked, I genuinely thought my annual pass would still be valid. So to, kind of have that was really great. And it meant that I could enjoy my time at Universal without having to worry about anything else. Disability pass. So last year I had a screening done to see if I was on the same autistic spectrum that two of my children are on. And funnily enough, it goes all the way back to Halloween Horror Nights, because it was the time in 2017 I went away with Craig. It was the first time we spent time together when he first asked me about me being autistic, because he was spending time with me and he could obviously see things that he otherwise wouldn't have noticed. And that kind of kicked off a bit of a chain reaction in trying to get myself diagnosed. And originally I went to my doctor, who completely poo-pooed me. You're too old, you don't need to have a diagnosis. What do you want a diagnosis for? And it really knocked my confidence. So I kind of just, not forgot about it, but kind of like just put it to the back of my mind about trying to get anything done. And then after my daughter got a diagnosis, my son had already had his diagnosis, I decided to try and pursue it again, and went and had a screening done and was diagnosed with both autism and ADHD. Now, to get fully recognised in the NHS, you can't go to someone private, even though they use the same process, even though they kind of sign up to the same scheme and rules and regulations. To be recognised by the NHS, you have to do it completely separately. So I'm now on a waiting list for that, but that takes, about 1.5 years, 2 years. It's going to be a while. But I had this report, and I knew that it met the credentials of getting a disabled access pass at Universal. So I looked into how you apply for that, and what you need to do. And I've never, we've done it with the kids at Disneyland Paris before, looked into what you need to do, but I'd never done it for Universal. So that was an ordeal in itself. And then in doing so, I found out that they just recently changed how they do it. And they now use an outsider company, and I'll put their name here, because I can't remember the actual acronym that they use. But basically, there's an app that you can download. You put in your details. You take a photo of yourself. You say when you're going to be going and where you're going to be going to. So you choose what theme park you're going to be in. There's lots of theme parks listed around the world. Disney do their own version of this, so they're not on there, but all different kinds of theme parks are, like Six Flags, SeaWorld, that kind of thing. And then you have to upload some evidence of that, as well as your contact information for a doctor or somebody involved in the process that can kind of like verify it, I guess. And what you're supposed to do, you're supposed to submit that. It's free. You submit it. They check everything on that. And then they're supposed to come back to you with a yes or no. And then someone's supposed to call you. That's what the process is supposed to be. Now, in my case, and also the case of a friend who went a few weeks before me, we never got that call. We got the approval a few days after applying. And then you have to go with the app to guest services and talk with them about what you require or what help you need, basically. So that's what I did. That was a process that I followed. So got the approval a couple of days before I was flying. So I knew when I got to Universal, I had to do that. So I had to do two things when I got to Universal for the first time. I had to go to guest services to get my annual pass, and I had to go and get the disability pass. And they give you both at they gave me both at the same time because I have to get them from guest services. The whole process took about 30 minutes, maybe 40 minutes for me to get all that done. I had a really nice cast member, Savannah, I believe was her name, who I've sent a cast compliment to, because she was really nice and very helpful and kind of understanding and just going through stuff with me. So yeah, one thing I will say, I thought the staff the whole weekend were great. I didn't encounter any kind of bad cast members or anything. Everyone was good. So I got my passes. She asked me if I'd used the disability pass before. I said no. So she explained to me briefly how it worked. I just asked her a couple of questions just to make sure that I understood it correctly. And, made sense to me. So I got my passes and I left. Because I had purchased a Rush of Fear pass for Halloween Horror Nights. A Rush of Fear, by the way, is available for normally the first 4 weekends of Halloween Horror Nights, and it means that you can get into any Halloween Horror Night during that initial 4-week period. It's normally 4 weeks anyway. So that's the pass that I bought myself before I left. It's normally quite discounted compared to like the full season pass, probably about half the price. But also works out cheaper than buying 3 single night tickets as well. So, this year for some reason I didn't sell the Rush of Fear in the UK. They normally do. I had to buy it through the Universal app. That took a bit of playing around with using VPNs and whatnot, but I eventually got it done. So that's all I need. To get into Halloween Horror Nights, you don't need a Universal Parks ticket. You just need a Halloween Horror Nights ticket. The theme park ticket is only if you're planning to go during the day. So that's what I did. I took my passes, put them away, and then scanned my my Rush of Fear pass, did the old fingerprint scanner, and in I went for my first night of Halloween Horror Night action. So let's talk about the first night, and you'll see some of what I did on these nights as well. So because it was the first night, because it was at that point about 9:15, I would say, in the evening. We're obviously 5 hours behind the UK, plus I'd had like 30 minutes sleep as well. So I knew I wasn't going to get a lot done. And I knew that the first house I really wanted to do was Stranger Things. all the houses. It was like the last Friday of the Rush of Fear. It was Friday, which is generally a busy day as well. So I knew I wasn't going to be able to do too much before I'd want to kind of like go back and rest. So I decided I wanted to do Stranger Things, which at the time was a 110-minute wait, if I remember correctly. 110 minutes was the time, was a lot of the weekend, so it was there or thereabouts if it wasn't exactly that. So I got my disabled access pass, and you go to the front of the house, like the entrance to the house, and there's somebody there with a clipboard, and you give them the card. They ask you how many people are in your party. Now, because this was a solo trip, I had said when I picked up my pass it was a party of one. But I think just generally they'll ask you that because if you've got, for example, a pass with a party of four, but you only need 3 people that are going in the house with you, then you would obviously say 3. But for me, it was always just one person. And then what they would do is they would tell you what time you need to return. So they would normally look at the time it was at the time, work out what 110 minutes was, take out what they expect you to wait in the express queue, and then give you a return time. So they gave me a return time of about 10:30, I think, and that was it. I was free to go, and then during that time, when you're waiting for access to your house, the time that you've got booked onto your pass, you can obviously do whatever you want to do. You can go and grab some food, you can walk around the scare zones, you can go on the attractions that are open on Halloween Horror Nights. There's a fair few attractions that you can go to as well. You can go and see Nightmare Fuel, which is their stage show. You can try and catch the Megans, because they're doing that this year as well. Or you could, queue up for another house. And as I said, because it was Friday, nearly all the houses at that time of night were really busy. I think the shortest time I saw at that point was 60 minutes for The Exorcist, which was like the house I was least interested in doing. And I made a conscious decision when I was doing this that, I didn't have any kind of expectation that I was going to get everything done in the 3 nights that I had, because I was doing it at my own pace as I wanted to do it, and because I knew how busy it had been, I wasn't sure how many houses I would do. So I had a list of houses that I really wanted to do. So like, as soon as The Last of Us was announced, I was like, oh, man, I can't believe I'm not going to Halloween Horror Nights this year. And then they announced Stranger Things Season 4, and I was like, God, I need to go to this event. So those are 2 houses that really kind of, made me want to go to Halloween Horror Nights. So they were must-dos. Everything else were pretty much things I wanted to do or see, but were collateral damage. If I didn't get to do some of them, it wouldn't matter as much. But I needed to do those houses. I had to do those houses. So what I did on the Friday night, because I was just kind of like getting used to everything, is I spent the night going around the scare zones and filming some bits of the scare zones and just generally having a good time, really. Just laid back, not rushed about anything, just going around at my own pace. And then grabbing a drink because it was hot. It was really hot. And I purposely took a water bottle with me because I knew I was going to need to drink a lot. I knew it was going to be very hot. So I thought I'd just take a water bottle with me. It's easy. I knew that you could get like cold water from the Coke Freestyle machines for free. So I could constantly like top my bottle up if needed to. But of course I forgot it on the first night I was there. So I just grabbed myself just a regular Coke and had that while I was waiting the last few minutes for my time to go into Stranger Things. And once my time came up that I could go back into the house, you go to the front of the queue, so the front of the entrance, you show your card to the cast member or a cast member who's got the clipboard. They will then sign your card to say that, they've now checked you in, as it were. And then what you need to do is you need to follow the express queue. Now, to go into Stranger Things, you don't go into the express queue until after you've kind of entered the building that the queue's starting, which is kind of like part of the Jimmy Fallon attraction. But once you kind of get through there, there's 3 lanes and there's an express lane. So you go in the express lane, and then what you need to do is you normally have to show your card at least 2 more times. So one to another cast member who will just check that, the time is accurate and it's been signed off, and they wave you through. And then when you get nearer the entrance to the attraction, there'll be another cast member who has like a screen and a scanner. They will scan your card. They will just check how many people are in your party, and then they will input that into the system, and then off you go into the final part of the queue. I think I queued up in the end for Stranger Things about 20 minutes, and it made things so much easier for me, because queuing, not queuing as a whole, but being in a queue with lots of people when you're not moving really makes me feel anxious. It's really hard for me, and I have to really try and focus on other things to be able to get through it. And especially being solo, it's even worse. At least if you're with other people, there's a little bit of a distraction. But when you're alone, like, the anxiety kind of like goes up. So it really did help. The other thing that I found really helped, and I've been doing this for a good few months now, if I know that I'm going somewhere that's quite loud or it's a similar kind of experience, is I bought some earplugs, which they reduce the decibel level, but they don't stop you being able to hear. So I can still have a conversation with people. I can still hear people talk to me, but it reduces the overall noise. And going through a Halloween Horror Nights house, wearing the earplugs made such a difference to my experience. It made me feel more relaxed. It made me feel calmer. And it just made walking through a house that much more enjoyable. And I can confirm that because the first time I went through Stranger Things, I completely forgot to get my earplugs out until I was in the house. So I was like, well, it's too late now. I'm just going to have to go through the house. I couldn't just like stand there and fiddle in my bag to get my earplugs out and fit them in. So, that first walk through Stranger Things, anxiety was through the roof. It was a hard one. A lot of people say it's not a scary house. But I think when people turn around and say that's not scary, I think that really varies on the individual, because, I find lots of things like that scary that other people probably wouldn't do. And maybe that's because of their experiences or just how they react to things like that. But, a lot of the houses, they're designed to scare you by, doing a loud noise and someone jumping out at you. So if you don't mind that, that's fine. But if if you're quite anxious, then it's rough. It's rough. But I mean, the Stranger Things house was really well designed. Like, I thought the sets they did were really well done. They really made you feel like you were, going through the show. It wasn't perfect. I would say that, the fact that there was nothing to do with Russia or with Hopper, all the stuff that they did with him, which was half of what was going on in the season, was him being stuck in this like Russian gulag. So I thought not kind of like doing anything about that was a bit sad, because that was quite integral to the season. But it was very clear that they were trying to focus on the Vecna element. Obviously, he was the big villain of the season and stuff like that. And I just had a really good time. I thought it was really well designed, and I got really I got spooked a few times, but the time I had the biggest scare was as I left the house, there was a Demogorgon hiding behind the curtain. And there was no Demogorgons in that season, really, or in the house. So I wasn't expecting anything more. And then just poking his head out really, really got me. So it was a really good scare. But there were a few things that startled me, mainly because of like those loud noises, people jumping out at you. But it was good. Like the costumes were good. The actors they had in the house were good. I just had a good time, and you know that's all I could ask for really from Stranger Things. So yeah, so I did Stranger Things, and I kind of wandered around a bit more, and then it was about 11 o'clock, and I thought, right, I should probably make a move now, because I was thinking about, you know, if it's 11 o'clock now here, then that's about 4 a.m. So I thought I should really go back and get some sleep because my body clock's all over the place. I just wanted to, I didn't want to waste my first night not doing anything. So I felt I'd achieved enough. You know, I'd gone through all the scare zones, got myself familiar with where things were. So I was content with the one house. So I walked back the same way that I came. And, you know, once I got in, and once I kind of, you know, unwound, it was probably nearer 5. But I was able to get some sleep, which is the main thing. And then I could start getting ready for day 2 of my Orlando trip.